Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the PG Show, where we talk about all things college football. Today, we got to talk about some of the moves and the headlines that Arizona State is starting to make on their hires for the coaches and where they need to go in the transfer portal to fill a lot of the spaces that they need players. But before we get into it, please go ahead, hit that like and the subscribe button. Let me know what you guys are thinking down in the comments below about the direction of the Arizona State Sun Devils program. Okay, so Arizona State, they moved off Herm Edwards in probably one of the most weirdest, if that's the right word, fashions we have probably ever seen in a head coach being let go. And that was, listen, the man was fired on the field. They were trying to find a way to get rid of him. And, it just so happened that they had a not so great start to the season. Ultimately, they end up hiring Kenny Dillingham from Oregon. Oregon, who's the offensive coordinator at Oregon. And listen, great hire for him. Great hire. Alumni of the program. He has the passion for it. So now the question is, can Arizona State execute on the recruiting trail and on the field to be able to potentially compete in the Pac-12 as USC and UCLA are preparing to move to the Big Ten? Now, here's why I say this. Because as he is hiring these great coordinators, wide receiver coach Rashad Samples, who has had a stint in the NFL with the Los Angeles Rams, cornerback Bryan Carrington, who he was one of the top recruiters in the nation and was Tom Herman's director of recruiting at Texas. Then you've got Brian Ward as the defensive coordinator and Bayou Baldwin as the offensive coordinator. When you look at these hires, you would think that he is trying to go out there and make a splash so that he can go ahead and start hitting that recruiting trail, not only in the state of Arizona, where they are talent rich, but also being able to dip into places like Texas and maybe even able to dip into places like California. When I look at Arizona and Arizona State, or the state of Arizona as a whole, and you look at the talent that is in this state, Arizona State and Arizona have done a very poor job at being able to gather the talent there, keep it home, and potentially build good programs. Here's what I mean by this. I took data from the past 5 years, and in terms of 5 stars, they've had 4 come out of their state in the past 5 years. So you're averaging almost 1 a year. In terms of a 4-star, they have had 31 4-stars that I found out of their state. Not a single one of those 4-star or 5-star guys went to Arizona or Arizona State. I want you to think about that for a second. Not a single one of those guys went to Arizona or Arizona State. This year, they have Deuce Robinson, the 5-star tight end. He's currently crystal balled to end up at USC. And I don't even think Arizona or Arizona State is in his top 5. Then you have Cole Martin, the 4-star cornerback who's committed to Oregon, Amari Washington, who's committed to Oregon. And listen, Oregon has had great opportunities to go in there and take players out of Arizona. In 2022, they lose their top 3 players to A&M, Ohio State, and Oregon. Oregon's going to be a name you hear a lot. When you go look at 2021, again, Oregon takes 2 out of the top 3, 3 out of the top 5 players in Arizona. Ty Thompson, Brian Walden, and Jonah Miller. In 2020, Georgia, Texas, Notre Dame take their top 3 talent. You have Kyle Ringo, the 5-star cornerback, top 10 player in the country, go to Georgia. Bijan Robinson, which we've seen what he's been able to do at Texas. And then Tosh Baker, the 4-star offensive tackle, goes to Notre Dame. And when you go up and down the list, You don't see Arizona or Arizona State next to a lot of these guys until you get to the 3-star dudes. And then in 2019, we all know what that class was like. They took Spencer Rattler out of there. Oklahoma took Spencer Rattler from him. If you're Arizona State, you have to be able to go in and you have to be able to lock down your state and be able to keep those kids at home. You cannot let the Georgias of the world who are halfway across the country come in and take your players. You can't let Oregon come in there and continue to dominate your state the way that they have. And I'm pretty confident that Kenny Dillingham is going to make this a priority and a focus, especially being from Arizona State. You would expect him to make a focus to go in there and lock down those resources that they have at their disposal within the state. And so how can Kenny Dillingham turn this team around this year and in the coming years, especially with the transfer portal, right? Now, keep in mind, Arizona State will have the self-imposed scholarship reductions of at least 5. So they'll probably have 80 instead of 85. So they need quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, offensive line, defensive linemen, linebacks, and defensive backs. So really they need almost everybody at this. Now, they need probably about one good quarterback. So when you look at it, their needs at these positions, like they're not like super high unless you get the wide receiver position, offensive line and defensive line. That's where they really need a lot of these guys. But when I look at the transfer portal and I look at what Kenny Dillingham can do, and I look at the quarterback position, that's probably one of the most valuable positions on your team. Probably one of the most important. So how do you go about that one? Well, we know who's in the transfer portal. You've got Devin Leary, and you got DJ Uiagalelei. I know there's a lot of talk around where he's going to end up. Devin Leary's from New Jersey. I don't think you land him. DJ, though, is from the West Coast. So there could be an option to go out there and make a push to be able to get a guy like him. You could also go after Hudson Card, who, yes, he's from Austin, Texas. And so you're pretty close to Texas. Wouldn't be a bad spot. These are home run hires or home run gets that Arizona State could go out there and grab. And then we look at one of the other positions that they absolutely need to take care of, and that's the wide receiver position. Well, you've got tight ends and wide receivers all over the portal. Start with Dominic Lovett out of Missouri. Tremendous production out of there. You can go and get yourself Jaheim Bell or Rivaldo Fairweather. Those are both tight ends, one from South Carolina, one's from Florida Atlantic. You have wide receivers in Dante Cephas, Kyle Morlock, Dante Thornton, Dorian Singer, Jimmy Horton Jr. There's a lot of opportunities for Arizona State to be able to come in, make a splash, because at this point, I don't think Kenny Dillingham's going to be able to quickly turn around their recruiting for 2023 and be able to land some top-tier talent. So at this point, you're going to have to build through the transfer portal. The good news is you can do it quickly, and you can turn over a program and the guys that are in there quickly through the transfer portal. Right now, Arizona State, they have a total of, it looks like, 9 commits. They're ranked number 96. And there's really not a lot of other options out there. So wrap up this recruiting class, get a bunch of strong guys out of the portal, and then really hit the recruiting trail in 2024. Because when you look at what is available in 2024 on the recruiting trail for Arizona, well, start off by trying to make a splash by going and keeping Dylan Raiola in Arizona. Mind you, this is the number one guy in 2024. Number one guy, number one quarterback. And he's currently committed to Ohio State. He's a 5-star guy. Then you have Elijah Rushing, the 5-star edge rusher, top 15 player in the country. If you're at Arizona State, you have to be able to go out there and keep both of those guys, or at least one of the two, in your state. And then go out there and make a priority to go out there and grab yourself a Jeremiah Newcomb, a Desmond Williams, If you can't get Dylan Raiola, at least go out there and get Desmond Williams, the 4-star quarterback. You can address your wide receiver needs. And with Miles Lockhart, you can get a good running back in Khalil Valentine. There are opportunities for Arizona to start turning it around through next year's recruiting class and through the transfer portal this year. So go ahead, jump in the comments below. Let me know what you guys are thinking about the direction of the Arizona State Sun Devils program. Where do you think they're going to end up next year in terms of an overall record? Do you think Kenny Dillingham will get the Arizona State Sun Devils back on track to becoming a winning program?